Not too long ago, I picked up a Bambu H2D. It filled a sweet spot in what I needed for my projects. With the dual nozzle design, it works as a multi-material, almost a tool changer type printer for if I do want to mix materials. For those times that I only need to do a 2-color print, I can essentially use it as a tool changer, which minimizes my filament swap times. And it does have an AMS, which is great for doing true multicolor prints. But there are some downsides. It's always irked me a little bit that even though the machine that I'm slicing on is sitting in my office and the printer is sitting in my garage, to get the full features of the printer, I have to turn on Bambu Cloud, which sends my file to the Bambu server and then back down through the magic of the internet into the garage, which is 2 rooms away. While I find that irksome, that you have these kind of golden handcuffs that to get the true potential of the printer out of the box, you have to use the Bambu Cloud functions. You can also see where people might have privacy concerns or be working on projects with proprietary information where they don't want that information to leave their network. And while there is LAN mode, then you lose a bunch of functionality. Like you can't monitor your prints remotely with the phone app or anything like that. So I was very excited when a friend of mine pointed out a piece of software called Bambuddy that solves those problems and a whole bunch more. So let's take a look at it. So as you can see right here on their homepage, up front, open source and self-hosted. It is open source, so you can look through the code as much as you like. The UI is just gorgeous. I really think they did a fantastic job with it. As we go down, one of the newer features that they've incorporated is you can install Orca Slicer or Bambu Slicer into the same Docker environment that Bambuddy runs on and be able to slice without even involving your computer. They're working on this piece of hardware called the Spool Buddy, which is a self-contained unit for doing NFC filament management. It can read and write the tags, as well as being able to track the weight of your spools. We'll look at some stuff involving that in a minute. It has an insane amount of functionality. You genuinely could use this to run a print farm. And you'll see that there are features really geared toward that. So you can have it automatically archive every print that you send to it. So let's say, you print something and then you get a customer that comes back and says, hey, can I get more of those? You can go find it out of the archive and just reprint that plate without ever having to reslice it. You have monitoring, there's visualization built in. You can schedule not only prints in a print queue, which is something that I really missed from my Voron printers that run Mainsail, but you can even hook this into smart plugs. So the system will automatically turn your printer on, run a print at a given time, and if you want, you can have it turn the printer off. There are multi-platform notifications, so you can use email, Discord, Telegram. There's MQTT. There's a bunch of services that you can use to get real-time notifications, which I'll show you. And yeah, local and private, you run it on your own hardware in your own network, and nothing ever has to hit the cloud. This is available to be able to host on Linux, Windows, Macintosh. Basically, if you can run Docker on it, you can run Bambuddy. I'm running it on my QNAP NAS server. It took me a minute to get it up and running and on my network. And it's compatible with essentially all Bambu printers that can be put into developer mode, which is the other thing. For Bambuddy to be able to control the printer has to be in developer mode. So you can't split between Bambuddy and Bambu Cloud. You have to do one or the other. But this will work on anything from an A1 through the H2D. So with that, let's take a look. This is the Bambuddy interface. I have one printer here, which is my H2D. And here right at the top, you can see it's saying that there's one available, which means I have one printer connected to Bambuddy that is not doing any jobs and is ready to print, which is this one. We've got some status things here, so it is connected. That's my Wi-Fi. There are no errors from the system. This is a maintenance reminder, which we'll look into in a minute. My firmware is up to date and the door is closed. Here we have the print status, which isn't doing anything because I'm idle. We have the temperature readings for the printer, as well as showing the nozzle information here. My left nozzle is active and it's showing the size and types that we have. These are some controls that you can use while it's printing. Down here is the AMS area where you can see the information on your filament. So right now my AMS is at 1% relative humidity, 22.7 degrees. And if I click on the flame icon, I can pull up the drying settings so I could start running the dryer. However, there are also other options for drying that we'll get into, which is another place where Bambuddy really fills a gap that's missing from the stock software. So let's take a look through the options real quickly, and then we'll take a look at it in action. Bambuddy has its own spool inventory system, or you can also integrate it with Spoolman, but that has a couple caveats that we'll cover. So I haven't gotten into this yet. Archives shows everything that you've sent to Bambuddy, and again, here's where you could go back and pull up an old plate. There are settings for auto pruning, so you can say if I haven't printed a plate in a year, go ahead and purge it. Or you can just keep everything forever if you've got the space. You can do searches here. So if I start typing compact, it pulls up this because that has compact upper in the name. You can also filter out by what printer you've printed it on, what materials are used. So if I say, show me my ABS, this is the only thing that comes up because that had ABS in it. And you can star files to make them easier to find. It's a full-on search function. This does have print queuing, so once you've uploaded files, you can add them to the print queue. You can schedule them to fire off at a certain time, or just say immediately go, here's the projects area. I just created a test project there that doesn't really need to do anything. This is the dialogue that you get when you create a test. So you can say what it is, what the description is. You can put in your URL, all of your information here, target the number of plates and the number of parts. You can tag things here, due date. You know, a lot of this is functionality that you would need if you were running a print service. You can have archive completed, active, but from here you can look. So this is showing, because I've already printed these plates, this is saying that these plates have been completed. So this would be one way that you could organize multiple plates together so you know where you are if you're going through a multi-plate project. There's the file manager where you can upload files. So I uploaded an STL. If I had the headless slicing enabled, then I should be able to slice this directly from this interface. I can pull up the 3D preview and take a look at the part. And then here is a plate that I uploaded that was already sliced. And from here, I can print it, I can schedule it, or if I pull up this 3D preview, This is much like the preview from Orca Slicer or Bamboo Slicer. So we can pull this to see what's going on with the print layers. And we've got some settings there. Ooh, dark mode. Next up, there is a Maker World tab. So if you do put the credentials for your Bambu account into Bambuddy, you can just paste a link from Maker World and be able to get access to it, much like you would be able to do if you were using Bamboo Slicer or the Bambu Handy app. You can manage your slicer presets and pressure advance, so you can either synchronize this to Bambu Cloud, you can upload profiles, and this will show you the K profiles that are in the printer. This would probably be most useful if you were using the in Bambuddy slicing. Now we can check out maintenance. So you can see this is where we were getting that yellow icon from the printer page because it's saying that I should clean my build plate soon. So there's that. There's a lot of extra information here. So if you don't want these, like I don't really need it to remind me to clean my build plate, you can turn that off. You can reset these, I guess, once the service has been done. Actually, I cleaned my build plate last night, so that has now been cleared. I won't get that warning anymore. And you can go here to specify the types of maintenance you want to do. For example, I don't need to have clean carbon rods because I don't have a carbon rod printer. There are a metric ton of statistics available. You can see this gives you all your quick statistics, your success rate. It actually looks at its time accuracy, all of your records, print activity. You know, this is going to be pretty boring because I have one printer. Again, if you're running a multi-printer facility, this could come in very handy. Shows you your filament trends. This also has the ability to track filament stock, so you can get warnings if the system knows that you're almost out of your most popular materials. And then finally, we get into the settings, and boy, are there a lot of settings. So here from General, obviously, these are all your general settings. You've got your language and your date formats. You can add additional cameras if you want. So if I say for this printer, you can put in a camera URL and get a camera stream from another device. Presets for your cost tracking and your archiving and the file manager. You can look at your data usage. This will show you whether the printer firmware has available updates, as well as checking for Bambuddy updates. We head back up. You can configure your smart plugs, either Tasmota or Home Assistant. Notifications, there's templates for all of these different events. You can set the language, the temperature that you want your bed to be considered cooled. So if you were in a rapid production environment, you could say, notify me as soon as the bed on this printer gets below this temperature, so you know that it's safe to clear the build plate and start the next print. Then you can specify what notification service you want to use. And if I pull this up, you can get email, Telegram, Discord, Notify, Pushover, WhatsApp, webhook, or Home Assistant. So while it doesn't have notification built in, you can make one of those things work. As I said, I'm using Pushover. It seems to be working pretty well. And what I like about that is it's a $5 one-time purchase per platform you want the software on. So to have these notifications on my phone for $5, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Here under workflow, you have all of your settings just in general, like do you want it to automatically bed level? Do you want flow calibration? All those things that you can normally set when you send from your slicer, you can have done here. Staggering starts, you can request that it confirm that the plate is clear before you run another print. You can inject custom G-code if you're using some sort of automated plate swapper. You can have start and end G-code appended to whatever is in the file that you sent. You can set up your slicer here. And remember I said that this fills in a gap in the AMS implementation. You can turn on auto drying and ambient drying. So ambient drying will automatically dry filament on idle printers when the humidity exceeds a threshold, even without queued prints. So if you leave your printer on, Bambuddy will monitor the humidity and automatically kick in the heater in your AMS when it gets too humid. You can also have it start the AMS drying automatically when the printer is idle and the humidity is above threshold, but that ties in with queued prints. So you've got a couple different ways to run that. There's all of the presets here for the temperature and duration you want it to turn the dryer on. And when we move into filament, you can see down here your thresholds as to what you consider to be good and fair humidity are what triggers that automated behavior. Going back up here, you can track filament using the built-in inventory system or tie into Spoolman. However, this is the caveat that I mentioned. It looks like this only works with Bambu spools. So I'm hoping to look into this more, but just be aware of that. You've got your filament checks, your print modal display, again, your thresholds. You can start building your spool catalog here. Here under network, your basic networking setup, as well as being able to hook into Home Assistant or MQTT or Prometheus if you want to use that for metrics and statistics. It has a very robust API key system. There's all of these API calls that can be made, so you can integrate this with other things. Virtual printing is what really makes this work for me. So with virtual printing, you can set up a virtual printer, and that is a proxy for your physical printer. And what this lets us do is actually output directly from the slicer to Bambuddy without having to export the sliced plate and then drag and drop that into Bambuddy. And I will demonstrate that in a minute. So you just have to set that up here. You can have it set to automatically archive the file that you send from the slicer. You can review it before it's archived. You can have it archive and automatically go into the print queue, or you can run it as a proxy where it will just immediately send it. If you are using Spoolbuddy, you can see those devices here. If you're running self-hosted Obico, you can hook the system into that and do your own AI failure detection. You can set up authentication. I'm not using it because A, Bambuddy is not exposed to the internet unless I'm connected through a VPN, and B, I'm the only person using this system. However, if you don't want other people to be able to get into the system, you can set up the authentication. You can use 50 different permissions. So if you are in a print farm, you could say X number of users can administer the system. Some people can only run prints that have already been uploaded. There's a ton of functionality here. There's email authentication, LDAP if you're running that kind of server, two-factor, which can be done a number of different ways, single sign-on, and then security here, where you can do your multi-factor authentication. And finally, backups. So you can back up to Git to a number of different servers. You can back up only your profiles, your app settings, your spool inventory. You can back up as much or as little as you would like. You can do local backups manually where you can just download or restore. I had torn down my first Docker instance and then rebuilt it. I used the backup and restore functionality and it was absolutely seamless. Or you can set up scheduled backups that will automatically do snapshots. The thing that we haven't talked about is mobile usage, because without Bamboo Cloud, you don't have Bamboo handy. Well, Bambuddy solves that issue by using a persistent web application, or PWA. You open the URL in a web browser, so you need to use Safari on iOS or Chrome on Android. You can save that not as a normal bookmark, but as an application itself. It gives you an icon on the desktop and it works just like as if there were a native app. So let me pull that up. So here is my phone. And if I go to machines, there's Loki. So this is the same display, just formatted for mobile. If I go up here, I have all of the same stuff. And one of the things that I didn't show is here on the printer card, I just turned on the light. Let me hit the video camera. So there's my printer. And because my phone is connected to my VPN, I can do this remotely from anywhere. I start prints at home and then I go to the office and I can just pull my phone out midday and take a look and see what's going on with it. So this is really great. Close that. I'll turn off that light. Now let's take a look at this thing actually working. So if I go into Orca Slicer, here is a part that I need to print. Got everything here. So if I slice it, there's that. When I go to print plate, this is your normal output that you would expect to see, but you'll notice that this says Loki VP, which is the virtual printer. And everything here is the way I want it. So I hit send. Now, Orca Slicer is going to act as if this was printing. I can turn on the lamp. You can see nothing's happening here because I have Bambuddy set to archive when I send from here. So now if I go back into Bambuddy, I go to archives, now I have the part that I just sent. It does say reprint because it was archived. So the system now thinks that this has already been printed because it's archived. It doesn't matter. I can just hit reprint, saying that it wants to print on Loki, and the filament mapping is correct because I want that printed in black ASA. I want one of them. We can look at the print options, which this is the stuff that I had set in the workflow, but you can change it here if you want it different. And when I hit print, I'll go back to printers. This is waiting for Loki to acknowledge the print. It does take a second or two. Okay, and now that has been dispatched, you can see that we've got that printing. This is glowing because the nozzle is heating up. We can see the bed is on, the chamber heater is on. So everything here is going, and I can open up this window and just be able to drag that out of the way. And now we wait for all of the things to do their things. So thanks for watching. Thank you for everyone that supports the channel. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.